Hey everybody, welcome to M2M Coverage. We got a new episode. We are reacting to the Clippers Nuggets Game 7, which occurred yesterday. Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic went off. Jokic got a triple-double, Murray with 40 points, and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were nowhere to be seen. They combined for 24 points. Some people have called this the biggest choke in postseason history, and Twitter has been filled with memes that I have enjoyed for the past 24 hours. We're joined by Lincoln Cutler, who is a Lakers fan. Lincoln, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're doing great. We love to have you on the show, and you actually won Gabe's score contest in
Yeah.
predicting the Nuggets Clippers Game 7 score, and you had the Nuggets winning this game, correct?
Yes, I did. Yep.
And you're a Lakers fan, so you like to see that.
Actually, it might come across as surprising, but I was hoping it would have been the other outcome. I was hoping we would have got
Really?
the Clippers. Yeah, the way the Nuggets are playing right now, I'd say that I'm more scared of playing them.
Yeah, they're
Wow,
more team-oriented, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what will hurt us because I mean we're more at the top, versus the team. So we got to play all these five guys that are all doing stuff. I think that's going to be a difficulty.
yeah, the Nuggets are no doubt not a pushover, and your fear of the Nuggets versus the Clippers actually is a pretty hot take because everyone
Yeah,
wanted to see that Lakers Clippers
yeah.
conference finals. But let me just start with this question. Was yesterday's game more bad Clippers or good Nuggets?
Okay. For me, I mean, I don't think you can argue against bad Clippers just because of how horrendously they shot all around as a team. But I'm gonna more argue on the side of good Nuggets. I think starting in once they went down 3-1, I mean, I know it's like cliche, but like I saw with like Jamal Murray, like he just had that demeanor, like he wasn't gonna lose. And then same thing with Jokic. Their whole team, they were just like the chemistry was there, the shots were going in, they had the confidence. Versus like the Clippers, they had that the thing that the whole season was going to carry them was their depth. That's what we were all saying was like how good their depth was, and then they stopped playing like their rotation. And Kawhi is playing 40 minutes, and PG is playing like 35. Like that's not how the Clippers were supposed to win. They were supposed to use the other guys, and they didn't. And so I think that you can argue both, but I'd say more good Nuggets though.
Yeah, and everywhere you looked in the press conferences yesterday, you were hearing from the Clippers players lack of chemistry. We didn't have enough time. Those were some of the excuses and reasoning behind the Clippers explaining their loss. Gabe, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously it's a mix of both because with every win, it's a good team being slightly better than the other team or a bad team being slightly worse than the other team. But I still think that it was more so the Clippers struggling than the Nuggets doing good. Jamal Murray finally found his groove, but that can also be seen as the Clippers not playing the same level of defense, especially in the second half. They really had no answers for Nikola Jokic, like outside of his scoring. He was really playing like the most well-rounded center we've ever seen in the NBA. It didn't seem like the Clippers were themselves. Like you said, they didn't really have an identity ever since the bubble started. And I think this is one thing I'll say. Paul George said in the press conference afterwards that this wasn't a winner bust year. I think it was just because they traded so much of their future away for Paul George, and they signed Kawhi Leonard, who's supposed to make them an instant contender. So I think it was more so the Clippers struggling, and the only good Nuggets I'll argue for is Wendy's.
Yeah, and you had Clippers Nuggets going to 7 games from the beginning, so you definitely saw this series as closer than most people thought it would be. And you said, I think you mentioned you were almost close to picking the Nuggets in that game.
Yeah, I had a DM I sent to one of my friends. He said Nuggets in 6. I said I'm about to say that on this podcast I'm doing. I ended up going back on my word and choosing Clippers in 7 just because it was a smarter pick. But I really wanted to say the Nuggets, but nope.
Yeah, and I actually made some money off of the Nuggets winning yesterday too. because I felt that the Nuggets would once it got to game 7, you could see the Nuggets have that momentum. And I just really liked that from Murray and Jokic, and they were playing freely, and that's what stood out to me most, that they had nothing to lose. With that said, Kevin, Kim, Geoffrey A. Kevin, you go first. What was your reaction to the Clippers and their choking?
Yeah, well, first of all, I picked Clippers in 5 as well with Geoffrey A, but that does not mean that I can't criticize Geoffrey A. Any chance I get, I'll take it. Geoffrey A, remember when you said that the Lakers were so much worse than the LA Clippers? We have it on tape. We can roll it right now. Your predictions are always garbage, okay? All right, and going back to the Clippers are one of the biggest disappointments in NBA history. I mean, I don't think they're the biggest choke job. I'm going to still give that to the Warriors blowing the 3-1 lead in the finals, but you cannot not capitalize on all the opportunities you have. You had a 16-point lead, a 19-point lead in elimination games, and you blow all of those leads. And not only that, but Nikola Jokic is not known as a shot-blocking center. So when Montrezl Harrell, 6th man of the year, he got to take advantage of that, and he did not take advantage of that. Montrezl Harrell looked out of shape, and then Clippers talked about they need chemistry. Well, if you need chemistry, then maybe you should not be going to a strip club and getting chicken wings during the bubble. Maybe you should use that time to build the chemistry with your team. All in all, this Clippers team showed no effort. They had no desire to win. The only player that looked like he had desire to win was Kawhi Leonard, and even him, he struggled in Game 7. But everyone's blaming Kawhi Leonard, but I wouldn't give him too much blame because he's been playing lights out throughout the entire playoffs. His team is to blame. His team is absolute garbage. Paul George, Pandemic P, George Paul, get him out of there. I mean, they completely lost that trade. I don't know what they were thinking. And the Clippers bringing back Doc Rivers, I don't know if I'm a fan of that move.
Hot takes there all around. Kawhi, I thought Kawhi was partly to blame for that loss because, we expect consistency from Kawhi just from what he's shown in the past. And then that second half was just pitiful from Kawhi. He didn't know what he was doing basketball-wise. He wasn't decisive. So, Geoff A., do you have any response to Kevin's argument against you?
Yeah, first of all, I know what you're talking about. You had the same prediction as me. You picked Nuggets in 5, so I don't want to hear anything. And if I remember correctly, you, like me, had the Clippers going to the championship and also winning the championship. And not only that, I still think the Clippers are better than the Lakers. I think that the Clippers didn't show up against the Nuggets. The Nuggets look like the much better team. And I'm disappointed in Kawhi. Kawhi is supposed to be a clutch player. He's supposed to show up in Game 7. He's supposed to show up against the Nuggets. He's supposed to show up against the Lakers. And he failed to do that. And Paul George, he's been playing horribly. And I don't want to hear any of these excuses from Clippers. The chemistry issues, who cares? You've almost had more than a year now since you got it together as a team. There's no excuses for them losing. This was the championship or bust season. Now next year, KD comes back. It's going to be hard for them to win a championship, and I'm not sure if they'll win another championship now.
Before anyone chimes in, I need to respond because first of all, I picked the Clippers to win the championship in our way too early predictions before playoffs even started. There's a reason why it's called way too early predictions. After that, I immediately was off the Clippers. I was talking about how the Clippers were not as invincible as I thought. You, however, kept consistently saying that the Clippers are an unbeatable team, and you still right now are saying that they're better than the Lakers. They can beat the Lakers. How delusional are you? How are they going to beat the Lakers when they can't even put away a Denver Nuggets team? Are you serious right now? A Denver Nuggets team had to go to Game 7 against a Utah Jazz.
No, the reason I think that they can beat the Lakers is because they're built to beat the
Lakers.
Lakers.
Because you're delusional. You're delusional.
That Clippers team is built to beat the Lakers. That's what they did all season. But then, in the process of building to beat the Lakers, they forgot that they had to beat other teams to make it to conference finals to beat the Lakers.
That argument has too many holes. How can you only be specifically designed to beat one team?
No. I believe you still had your prediction. You still thought the Clippers were going to make the finals. Till the Nuggets started coming back. Till the Nuggets started coming back from the series.
How would the Clippers stop AD if they couldn't stop Jokic either? They're basically both about the same offensive ability.
I would ask you this: how would the Clippers?
No, don't deflect. Don't deflect. Answer his question.
I agree, but I think that
There you go.
the Clippers still have one of the best teams in the league. They still have a lot of depth. They still have a better coach than the Lakers. I'm just won by Doc Rivers. By the
Doc
way.
Rivers won 3-1 leads, bro.
Yeah.
I know, but I think he's better than Frank Vogel. I still think that he has more experience than Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel's pretty new to this coaching thing. And because of that, I still think the Clippers could have beaten the Lakers if they went to the Western Conference Finals. But, it didn't happen. The Clippers choked badly, one of the biggest disappointments in playoff history. And I don't think they're winning another championship now.
Does a Lakers fan have anything to say about him saying the Clippers would still beat the Lakers?
Yeah, man, I've got to say you're delusional. I'm gonna agree with Kevin on this one. I think the Lakers are gonna best the Nuggets in like 5 games. I think it's gonna be a short series. They're out of power. I think after that, like you can't pinnacle as a team more, and it's just gonna decline. But yeah, I think that the Clippers, if they had played AD would absolutely rack it up just like Jokic. Although I will say Jokic right now would be tougher to stop because he was shooting the 3 ball like 45% in the playoffs. AD on his best day still not going to shoot like that. So.
And then you can't even guard Jokic's rainbow shots off of 1 foot turnaround. Like
That's insane.
That looks like an ugly shot, or it looks like a Dirk Nowitzki type shot.
It looks like a horse shot.
Unguardable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is not the conference finals that we all expected, but it's still going to be a great conference finals in the West. The Nuggets are going up against the Lakers, and the Clippers are out of the postseason.
And I have a message to NBA players. This is a message to all of you who will always want to go to New York, who always want to go to Los Angeles, to big market teams. Stop. Like the entire NBA Twitter, NBA world, NBA media has been hyping up this Battle of LA since the beginning of the season, before the season even started. Screw all of you. I'm so happy that none of y'all are going to get the matchup you wanted, because this is what you get. Kawhi Leonard should have never left the Toronto Raptors. Why would you leave a championship-ready team, a team that you already won a championship with, who has one of the best young coaches right now, who has Kyle Lowry, Frank VanVleet, guys who give effort. The Toronto Raptors took Boston Celtics to 7 games with a clearly under-talented roster. But they had the effort. That's what you need. Kawhi Leonard left all of that for Pandemic P, Pat Beverly, who all he does is talk, for a guy who likes chicken wings better than winning a championship. That's what he left Toronto for. And the entire country of Canada loved Kawhi Leonard. They were going to give him free housing and free food for the rest of his life, and he left for that, for LA. Disappointing.
Let me defend Kawhi real quick. First of all, in hindsight, what Kawhi did was horrible, right? This Toronto Raptors team made it as far as the Clippers did. They also went to a Game 7 like the Clippers. But before the season started, what Kawhi thought was, oh, wow, this Clippers team is a playoff team. They really need to start to win a championship. And Paul George, who was an MVP candidate the year before, is coming and joining me, and I think I can make the championship. And honestly, I think everyone thought that the Clippers were going to be better than the Toronto Raptors before the season started.
What's that reasoning, though? What is that reasoning? If you're saying the reasoning that he went to LA Clippers is because he thinks he can win the championship, then why leave the team that is the defending champions? And
because
also,
you never know. You never know. There's
a better route. The East is much easier.
No, the better teams. First of all, when Toronto won, they had an injured Golden State, and then Lakers just got AD. You never know what happens. You never know if Toronto can beat it. Another thing is that, yes, Kawhi went to an LA maybe for marketing reasons, but another thing is that he was born and raised in Los Angeles. I mean, why do you think he would rather stay in a different country? Canada's a completely different country, rather than go back home, go back to where he was from, go back to where he was raised in. And so I'm just going to defend Kawhi right there. I don't think people are giving too much criticism for going to the Clippers.
Yeah, I do think it's a little bit of hindsight bias there. But I just want to add one last thing about Doc Rivers. So how much of the blame Doc Rivers deserves. I think in this case, Doc Rivers doesn't deserve all of the blame because I thought it was an intensity that was lacking from specifically Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And I think you could just see that they felt the pressure. And I don't know if Doc Rivers can directly control that. He does get the blame because he is the head coach in this case. But I also want to defend Doc Rivers a little bit. People are going to say his bad record, and he does have a bad record, but he's still a proven coach in this league. And also, the bubble has shown that no matter who your coach, no matter who your superstars are, your coach can elevate himself over the superstars. Because we've seen Giannis taken out, even with a good coach, Budenholzer. We've seen the Raptors taken out, and we've seen the Clippers taken out. So I think it's not necessarily superstars, but it's coaching and the coaches that make the adjustments to advance further in the playoffs. And that's what the bubble has shown about this entire NBA and its parity and all the excitement that we saw going into the season.
I'm going to counter that real quick, actually. Obviously, Doc Rivers is a proven coach. He has a championship for a reason, right? Those Celtics, they were built strong, but he pushed them over the edge with his intensity. I really think his intensity was lacking in the bubble. Yes, maybe the players weren't as fired up or as into the game as they should be, but that's what you get a fiery coach like Doc Rivers for. I mean, we saw him get ejected playing against his son. We saw him and his son get ejected in the same game. We know he has the fire and the spirit. When his team is struggling, he shouldn't be going into interviews in the fourth quarter of a Game 7 just saying, oh, yeah, I know, it's win or go home, I know. That's kind of what he said. I really think that his spirit was lacking. It's not totally on him, but he could have helped them out by giving them some tough love, you know?